My name is Anna. I'm 34 years old. And for a long time in my life, I thought the problem was me. It wasn't a stranger who hurt me. It happened inside my own home, with the people who were supposed to be my safest place in the world. Today, I'm going to share a story I kept to myself for a long time. Not because I'm ashamed, but because it took me years to understand what was actually happening to me. And if it took you a long time too, I want you to know, it's not your fault. I grew up in a house that, from the outside, looked fine. We went to church every Sunday. My dad, Robert, was well respected in the community. My mom, Lucy, was that quiet woman, always put together, always smiling around other people. But at home, it was different. My dad never laid a hand on me. I need to be clear about that. Never. But he had a way of talking that cut deep. He knew exactly where it hurt. If I brought home a bad grade, he wouldn't yell. He'd just look at me, that look of disappointment, you know the one, and say, real calm, "Anna, I don't know what I did to deserve a daughter like you." I was 8 years old the first time I heard that. Over time, there were other things. "You're too sensitive. Stop being so dramatic. That's not what happened. You make things up. No one's ever going to put up with you the way you are." And the worst part wasn't hearing those things. The worst part was that in between those words, he also told me he loved me, that he wanted the best for me, that he was correcting me because he cared. So I grew up confused. Was that love? Was I actually the problem? Was I overreacting? I spent my entire childhood trying to be good enough to earn a different look from him. In my teenage years, things got harder. I started pulling away from people. I couldn't really connect with anyone because I didn't know how to receive kindness without waiting for it to turn on me. If someone was nice to me, I'd just wait for the moment they'd hurt me, because that's what I knew. Warmth and pain always came together. That's how I learned relationships worked. At school, I was the quiet girl. Smart, my teachers would say, but quiet. I had learned it was safer not to speak up. There was one teacher, Ms. Claudia, who pulled me aside after class one day. She said, "Anna, you have so much to say. Why do you hide yourself like that?" I didn't know what to answer, but I cried the whole way home. Not from sadness, from shock, because no one had ever told me I had something worth saying. But that feeling didn't last long, because when I got home and tried to tell my mom what Ms. Claudia had said, my dad overheard and said, "Teachers don't know anything about real life. Don't go getting your head filled with that." So I tucked that little sentence from Ms. Claudia somewhere deep inside me, afraid someone would take it away too. When I moved out on my own at 22, I thought I was going to be okay. I thought getting out was enough. But my dad's voice came with me. It was there in my head when I walked into a job interview and froze up. When I met someone and sabotaged it before it could even start. When something good happened and I just waited for it to fall apart because I didn't feel like I deserved it. I went to therapy for the first time at 25. My therapist, Dr. Marina, was the first person who actually named it. She said, "Anna, what you're describing has a name. It's called emotional abuse." I just sat there and stared at her. Abuse. That word didn't fit what I'd lived. Abuse was something out of a movie. Bruises, screaming. Not my dad in a button-down going to church. Not my house with the curtains my mom had picked out. But Dr. Marina was patient. She walked me through it. Every phrase, every pattern, every time I apologized for things that weren't my fault, every time I flinched when someone raised their voice, every time I believed I was just wrong. It was the hardest season of my life, because it's easier to believe you're the problem than to accept that the people who were supposed to protect you let you down. I'd always gone to church. I grew up in church, but I didn't really know God. I knew religion. I knew rules. I knew my dad's version of God, the one who was always disappointed, always keeping score, never satisfied. One night, alone in my apartment, I was reading Psalm 139. You know that part that says God knows us completely? That he knit us together in our mother's womb? I read that and stopped. Because if God knit me together, if he formed me, then he didn't make a mistake when he made me. I wasn't the mistake my dad saw. I was the creation of a father who doesn't get it wrong. I closed my Bible and just sat there in the quiet for a long time. And then I cried. I really cried. But it was different from anything I'd ever felt before. It was the cry of someone who had finally come home. And I heard, not with my ears but somewhere in my chest, something I had never heard the right way before. You have worth. Not because of what you produce, not because of your grades, not because of what people think of you. You have worth because I made you, and what I make is good. I was 27 years old, and it was the first time in my life I actually believed that. The healing didn't happen overnight. I want to be real with you about that, because I think we sugarcoat this stuff way too much. I kept going to therapy. I kept showing up at church, but this time actually searching, not just going through the motions. I started surrounding myself with people who were genuinely good for me. My friend Renata was huge for me. She's one of those people who actually looks you in the eyes, you know? I had to learn things that probably sound basic to most people but felt completely revolutionary to me. That I could disagree, that I could say no, that I could be angry without being dramatic, that my memories were real. I wasn't making things up. I also had to do something really hard, forgive my dad. Not because he asked, not because he changed, but because I realized that holding on to it was only hurting me. That forgiveness wasn't for him, it was for me. Today, I have a distant relationship with my dad. We see each other at family things. It's civil. But I've learned to stop looking to him for what he was never able to give me. And I've learned to find that somewhere else, in God, and in people who actually love me. Today I'm 34. I do work I love. I have real friendships. I have a faith that's actually mine, not something I inherited out of fear. And when I look in the mirror, I don't hear his voice anymore. I hear my own. And sometimes I hear that little sentence Ms. Claudia said, the one I kept tucked away so carefully. You have so much to say. She was right. If you made it this far, I want to ask you something. Is there a voice in your head that isn't yours? A voice that calls you too much, too weak, too broken? A voice that showed up so early you don't even know where it came from anymore? I want you to hear this. That voice lied to you. What happened to you has a name. The pain you feel is real, and you don't have to keep carrying it alone. Please get some help. A counselor, a therapist, someone you trust. And if you don't know this God who found me one night on my apartment floor with an open Bible, I'd love for you to meet him, because he knows you completely too. And even so, especially because of that, he loves you. I'm Anna, and that's my story.